Hey guys, in this video I will be teaching you how to create a Python script to identify the clickjacking vulnerability. If you don't know what that is, basically it allows you to load a external website in a iframe, and then you can trick users into clicking on that iframe, um, which will allow you to do things such as forcing them to donate money by clicking a button. You can change their email address and stuff. Um, so there's a website out there that allows you to scan websites to identify that vulnerability. It also scans for other security headers, which I will talk about a little bit, but I am going to mainly focus on the header that is associated with clickjacking. So it's a website that allows you to hack them. Let's hack this site, I think. Yes. So I can scan them legally. I'm going to use this site as an example. So we see that this website identifies that it has two security headers, but it's missing 5. We see that the Iframe options header, that is the header that is associated with clickjacking. And if that is missing, then they are vulnerable to clickjacking. I guess I could talk about these other headers for a second. So this, the strict transport security header, basically is saying you have to use HTTPS. That is there to help prevent people from using HTTP, which we all know is insecure. The X content type options helps prevent against sniffing of Mimi types. And then you have the content security policy, XSS protection, protection against XSS, and these other two. So we're going to focus on the Iframe options, and we will be building a tool that's just like this website that can scan that for us. So before I actually, let me just go to, if you've never heard of HackerOne, it is a bug bounty website, and they have a bunch of clickjacking reports if you want to read other people's findings. This first one I thought was really weird because it was a clickjacking report, but they got paid $5,000, which I thought was super high. I haven't actually read it, so there may be more to it than just a simple clickjacking. And then there's some other ones, like this one. So you can read these and see what they're doing. We see here that due to missing Iframe options. That's the same as that right there. So what we're going to do is create a Python script to check for that header so that we can automate some stuff. So let me create a file called clickjack.py, and then I like to use Vim. You can use whatever editor you want to use. Type I for insert, and then now we can type. So I guess actually I'm going to show you this in the Python interpreter. We can just get to that just by typing Python. And then we're going to use the request library. If you didn't download that in the other video, You can do that by doing app-get install python-request and then hit enter. I already have it installed, so I'm not. After that, and then we can import the request library, but just by typing in import request. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out to this website and I'm going to get the headers that it is using. Don't like how that looks. So I can do that just by creating a variable, set that, actually just gotta print this in just one line. And request.get, send a GET request to this URL. And then let's get the headers by typing in .headers. So we see here these are the headers that it is using. And we see the strict transport security and the X content type options. And those are the two that it says that it did have on this other website that we scanned it with. And we notice that it's missing all of these. We can verify that it's missing the X-frames options just by looking and seeing that there is no X-frames options there. So that's really easy to find. We just have to take this and just look for that header, and if it's missing, then the website is vulnerable. So same thing, import request, and then let's just create a variable called headers and set that equal to the same thing, request.get. Actually create a variable called domain real quick. .get domain, and this should print out the same thing. Just got to run it real quick just to verify. And I messed up on something. Did not put the .headers at the end. No matter if it's 3 lines or 20 lines, I always end up messing up on something. Cool, so that printed out the same thing. Now we just need to look in that list, and then, or dictionary, and then we can search for the iframe header. So that's super easy to do. We just type if, then we're looking for this header, X frame options in headers. So that's just saying that if it finds this in the headers, then we can go ahead and just pass, and if it isn't in the headers, then we can just print some vulnerable. Cool. So this should print the domain name with the word vulnerable at the end. And we see there that it does. Awesome. So now if we just type in another website that I know isn't vulnerable, such as google.com, then it should print nothing. And I'm actually going to change this so that it does print something so we can actually see it. So let's check google.com. I'm pretty sure they're not vulnerable. And we see it prints back google.com not vulnerable. Awesome. So basically, we can take this script, we can now scan a website to see if they are vulnerable to clickjacking. We can hop into the bug bounty world. We can submit some bug bounties pretty easily just by going on the HackerOne, checking some domains with this script, seeing if they're vulnerable. If you find one that is, then you can submit your bug bounty and possibly get some money from it. You can create this script better. Like I said, we're just checking for the X-frames options. We can check for all of these other security headers as well, just as easily. So instead of putting X-frames options here, we could change that to strict transport security, and then that would check for that header. Then we can just have a bunch of if statements that'll just check for each header. We can also scale this up a little bit. So instead of checking one domain at a time, we can maybe have a list of subdomains, or maybe we have a list of the top 1,000,000 domains. And then we can search on all of those and check which of the top 1,000,000 domains are vulnerable to clickjacking and which are not. You can do some cool research on that. So you can definitely add a bunch of stuff to this extremely small tool. This is 10 lines. So that's it. Just as a recap, we learned about clickjacking a little bit. If you don't really know what that is, I would go on YouTube, type in clickjacking, download some vulnerable app and practice a little bit. It's pretty easy to exploit. And then after clickjacking, we learned how to create a simple Python script to check for missing security headers. The clickjacking security header was associated with the Iframe options header, and if that isn't in the response headers, then we know that the website is vulnerable to clickjacking. So that's it.